Welcome to season 2 of Are You Man Enough? And we have a very special guest to kick off this year and this season on episode 1, season 2, which is the one and only Adam Smith. Many of you have probably gotten the chance to see really his accomplishments and what he's done. And we're going to really just have an informal conversation and talk a lot about what he's experienced that maybe we haven't seen. We're going to pull the curtain behind really the things that he's experienced, not only as a 17-year vet, but also Green Beret, has traveled the world, done many deployments, many tours. And first of all, Adam, I want to welcome you to the show, my friend. Welcome.
Bro, I didn't realize this was episode 1 of season 2. Come on now.
You know, what's funny is we kick things off in a certain way to where January, February, we don't do a whole lot. And then in March, when this thing kicks off, I think this is going to be starting off with a bang. And, you know, if I can just kind of dig in to a little bit of the history here of what we've done. I met Adam through an app called Clubhouse, which some of you don't know. It's a social audio. LinkedIn has one. Facebook has one. Twitter Spaces has one. And Adam was in a room full of probably 1,300 people when I first heard him speak. And I knew when he started to speak, everybody dropped and listened because he had something to say. It wasn't the usual stuff. He knew how to say it. He knew how to deliver the information in a way that he wanted it to make an impact and last. So first of all, I'd like to dig into your history a little bit. When you were a Green Beret, or before you were a Green Beret, what did you do and what did you want to do as a child when you were growing up?
Dude, I always wanted to be in the military. I always wanted to be in the military from the very first moment that I can remember. And my mom used to tell me this story. She was like, as young as I can remember you being, I remember you wanted to be in the military, and I wanted to be in the Air Force. I wanted to be a fighter pilot. That was a big thing. And then my grandfather on my mom's side, he was a Marine. And my grandfather on my dad's side, he was an Army Airborne guy. It wasn't a Ranger, just Army Airborne. And so I was like, I'm going to be a Marine Corps Raider. Like, I want to be a recon Marine because of Heartbreak Ridge. Like, yeah, Heartbreak Ridge. That's the movie, right? Clint Eastwood was solid. I want to be a recon Marine. And then I realized as I grew up a little bit and got a little older, a little wiser, and I didn't want to eat crayons for a living. I wanted to do something in the special operations community. And so there was a point when I was like, you know what? What I want to do is I want to be a Green Beret. And my grandmother asked me this question. So literally my entire childhood, like I was a Boy Scout for a little while. I did this thing called Civil Air Patrol for a little while. We did civilian search and rescue. Everything I could do extracurricularly to prepare myself for what I really wanted to do. And my family didn't have any money. So growing up, like we didn't have any money. I didn't come from a family of money. I didn't come from a family of means in any way, shape, or form. So I also had to figure out how to generate an education. And so I was like, all right, I got this plan. And I talked to my grandma Smith, and I told her what my plan was. And she was like, I don't like it. I don't like your plan. I think it's a bad plan. I think you're going to get hurt. It's going to put you in danger. And I don't want you to be in danger. And I was like, well, Grandma, I can either live my life and recognize the danger is a part of it, or I can go hide in a room. Which would you prefer me to do?
What did she say?
And she was like, well, I can't tell you to go hide in a room because that doesn't give you any experience. So I guess you're going to have to live your life. And so at 17, I blackmailed my parents, literally straight up blackmailed my parents into signing the paperwork. And hindsight being 2020, I realize now my dad was super reluctant. And at the time I was like, dude, just like, what kind of language? I didn't ask you this before, but can we use some proper language inside of here?
You're ready to roll if you need to.
Fuck yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So I couldn't figure out what was wrong with my dad. And I was like, literally, I said to my dad, so we're sitting down talking about signing the paperwork. I was like, Dad, like, get the fuck off your ass and sign this document right now, because you're holding me back from what I want to do. Hindsight being 2020, I realize now that his reluctance was he didn't want to sign my life away, because that's in essence what he was doing. He was literally he was giving me permission to die for my country. Like, I didn't realize that when we initially did it. So literally, like, my entire childhood, that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to be in the military. I wanted to be in the special operations community. I had a plan. I put the plan together. I talked my parents into letting me do it. And that's what I did.
You mentioned something that I think that we need to discuss. I know you have a daughter.
Yes.
How difficult would that be if your daughter came to you, or you had a son and your son came to you and said, I need permission for you to sign my life potentially away? How would you handle that as a father? Just curious now, knowing hindsight.
Man, that's a really good question. I've actually thought a lot about that. And the thing that I thought the most about it is I didn't, Megan and I, my wife and I, decided to have children, not for us to have children to live our lives, but to have children to raise them to live theirs. And so the thing that keeps coming back to me is I have to constantly remind myself, because she's just turning one, like literally in 6 days, she's 1 year old. And so the thing I keep reminding myself is like, I have to show up and I have to facilitate a life so that she can make good choices, educated choices, and I can be there as a consultant and a guide who can give her perspective. And that's really the big piece. So if she came to me and said, "Hey, I want to sign up for the military. I want to sign up for the whatever it might be, and I want you to sign this document," then we'd have to have a real conversation. What have you thought about this? What's the reason you want to do this? What if it's just you want to go have adventure, man, let's go have some adventure. But if it's something because you feel like you have a higher purpose, I want to hear that thought process. I want to be able to have that conversation and really identify, is this what you really want to do? Or are you just saying this is what you want to do because it's a spur of the moment thought, spur of the moment decision? And if she's like, no, here's my reasons. This is my thought process behind it. Here's all the things that I want to do. Here's my plan of progression. So how I can take this action and create success in my life. Like, fucking let's go. I'll sign the papers right now.
I think we do that when dads give away their daughters in marriage. And I thought a little bit about that. Sons, it's going to be different. I've got a son and 2 daughters, and my daughter came to me this week and said, I kissed a guy for the first time. I may or may not have. And I'm like, well, that means you did. And what you said was kind of important, because you're raising your kids to be interdependent, not completely dependent on you, and to make their own decisions. And, coming from your background and knowing your wife's background, how would you say that parenting has really affected your daughter? And I think you have one on the way. Is that correct?
No, we've talked about, we've talked about trying for a second. So we're having that conversation and talk about trying for a second. But, I told my wife, and people are going to hear this and they're either going to laugh or they're going to hate me. So I'm really good with both of them. I told my wife, I said, look, if we give birth and you give birth and we have an ugly baby, I'm going to tell you that she's ugly or he's ugly. Cause we didn't know what sex, Tovi is my daughter's name. We didn't know what sex she was going to be. And then I also said, like, the very first thing I'm going to tell her when him or her, whoever it is that comes out, it's the very first thing I'm going to say is, don't be a pussy. And so literally, Megan just gave birth to our beautiful baby girl. And at the time she was the most newborn that newborns can be, right? Like literally just popped out. Megan did it, no drugs. She's laying on her back on the bed. The doctors are working on her, because we did a birth center birth. It was pretty spectacular. The doctors and the nurses are working on her, and I'm doing skin to skin time with our new daughter. And so the nurse handed me Tovi, and I put her against my chest, and I looked at her and I said, baby girl, don't be a pussy. And then I looked at my wife and I was like, babe, I just want to let you know we have an ugly baby.
Did she at least laugh?
Oh yeah, she 100% laughed. She laughed. She shook her head at me, because that's what she expects. And I think that's the piece that, as far as our parenting goes so far, and again, like, we're brand new parents. Let's not get it twisted here. With that being said, so far there is a balance. Megan, she's super consoling. Every time Toby gets upset, she immediately wants to go and not rescue, but support, give her love and care and adjustment. And usually for me, if it's me and Toby at the house, like Megan's off doing something and it's just me and her, if I see her screaming or crying, I'm gonna give her a little bit of space. Like, hey, you know what? You're gonna work through this shit. Like, you're gonna scream and cry. I understand that you're not one. I understand you don't know what the fuck's going on, but that's okay. Like, sit in whatever you're sitting in, and then I'll come help you out. And so you can already see that there's a definitive difference between how we address showing up for our baby girl, which is, it's kind of interesting when you consider it.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting also is when you have 2 different backgrounds with parents, right? You and Megan come from 2 different places. More importantly, the man's role is different from a woman's role. You've had experience and you've had extensive, I think, things that you've seen that you probably wouldn't even want to talk about or even tell people, because they wouldn't believe it, with what you've seen in your time in. How does being a provider for a family, having your military background, also being a husband, now being a father, how do you juggle all those things? Because I also know that you're a keynote speaker. I also know that you are a power lifter. You're incredibly strong. You're incredibly fit. and you have so many things that you juggle as a dad. How do you handle those pressures, and how do you compartmentalize those things in your past to make sure they don't come up in the future?
You know what? So, God, man, that's a loaded question, bro. That's a really loaded question. Um, there's a thing that I speak to on a regular basis, and it's the transition from military to civilian. And I when we had our daughter, I had just become, I feel like just become ready to be a dad. And the reason why I say that is because prior to that, I was still in the process of figuring out who I was, like who I am, how do I show up, how do I not, like, how do I do exactly everything that you just said, but more importantly, how do I define who I am, how do I define my purpose in life, and how do I execute on a mission that serves the purpose of my life. And the transition out of the military was really hard, man, because you identify yourself as the hat that you wear. You identify yourself as the job that you have. And so I wore I literally, I said this the other day, like, man, I identified myself as the color of the hat that I wore, a green beret. And if you ask me like, hey dude, who are you? What do you do? Like, oh, I'm a green beret. And they're like, you're a green beret. Yeah. Okay. That's kind of sums everything up. But when you get out of the military, the fact that you're a green beret is just a cool story, right? It offers an opportunity for you to get your foot in the door. Oftentimes it offers an opportunity for you to, it gives you a chance to maybe be heard, sometimes more than others, because you kind of have a vetted background. And at the same time, it also gives you an opportunity to fall flat on your face in a hurry if you don't show up. And so trying to make the battle like that was the hardest piece, was a transition, because when I stepped out of the military, I lost my identity. I had no purpose and I had no mission to serve my purpose. It led me down into a very dark place, to the point where it got so bad that, man, I went from 200, around 267 pounds or so, at about 14% body fat. I ended up being almost 340 pounds. My body wasn't functioning properly. My body wasn't producing testosterone properly. Post-traumatic stress and traumatic brain injuries had all of my hormones completely out of whack, and just really jacked up. I couldn't get an erection. Like, my wife and I hadn't had sex for almost 3 full months. I couldn't find a job. And if I say that, I wasn't going to take a job at McDonald's. Like, this was a big ego thing for me at the time. I just came from working at some of the highest levels in the country, in the government, in the military, doing the jobs that I was doing. I had a chance to work at the Defense Intelligence Agency. I was doing intel fusion cell operations in Central America, and briefing ambassadors. Like, and now I'm in a cabin outside of Lexington, Kentucky, and we're making less than $18,000 a year because my wife decided to go back to get her master's degree. and now she's in an internship, and I don't have a fucking job. Like, and I have no idea how to be a civilian. I got no clue what it is to be a civilian. I don't speak the language. I don't know how to translate the skill set. Like, my entire identity was a Green Beret. My purpose was to be better at that job. And my mission was whatever was defined to me by my higher command. And now I have the space to define all those things, but I didn't realize that I had the choice to do it. And so bringing all of those experiences up to where we are now, and us finally becoming parents, I wasn't ready to be a dad before. I was angry all the time. I mean, fuck, dude, like just a hair trigger on my temper, angry all the time. I couldn't get my feet underneath me. And it took a hand up and an opportunity for me to recognize that I could serve a purpose, that I could find significance in what I do, and that I could define my own identity. From that moment, almost 6 years for me to actually feel like I was ready enough to be a dad. And then we had a baby, and I was like, nope, not fucking ready. Definitely not ready to be a dad. I don't know, this sleep deprivation thing. God, dude, I thought I was done with this when I got out of the military. This is real. And so it's not about compartmentalizing things. To answer your original question, it's not about compartmentalizing things. The more you compartmentalize, the more you internalize past pains or past experiences, the more those things build up stressors inside of yourself, inside of your body, inside of your mind. So it's not about compartmentalizing. It's actually about externalizing. It's about telling the story of your experience. And it's not telling the story of your experience from a place where you want to constantly find validation in your victimhood. It's about telling a story from a place and recognizing that you get a chance to take that experience and translate it and convert it into something powerful and impactful. And that's been, dude, that has been like, when I realized that that was something I could do, like I'm allowed to do that. And I'm allowed to have a conversation about putting a pistol in my mouth. And I'm allowed to have a conversation about not getting a hard on. And I'm allowed to have a conversation about not being physically attractive or attracted to my wife who's smoking fucking hot. And I like, we can have this conversation for real. Oh shit. Like it changed everything for me. So I would say to anybody that's listening to this, if you have had past pains and past traumas, you were victimized in that moment, right? You were a victim of the moment. But every time you allow those past pains and past traumas dictate the action of the now, you are actually just victimizing yourself. And so use the past experiences as a way to generate wisdom and a way to generate impact. Convert it. And that's honestly, that's how I want to show up for Toby. I don't want to compartmentalize anything. I don't want to hide anything from her. I want to have a real conversation about this shit when she's old enough to understand. And I want her to know that dad's not perfect and dad will never be perfect. And neither is mom, and neither will she can't ever be perfect either. Like if you're seeking perfection, you are fucking praying at the shrine of bullshit, because perfection is impossible. So I don't ever, I mean, if I want to translate the past and become a parent, I want to translate the past and convert the experience into something that can be impactful for Toby's future, rather than trying to demonstrate that you're going to be oppressed or held down, or this is going to always keep you back, or any of that other bullshit.
You mentioned transitioning from military life to civilian life. And I think you're not the only one. You're not alone. And it's not that you don't want to. And I think the key word I heard was I didn't know how to, or I didn't give myself permission to. What do you think for someone who might be watching this and maybe they're in that struggle or in that transition right now? What are some ways that helped you, or what do you feel like there are some steps that someone can take to kind of get out of that life and get into a normalized rhythm in civilian life?
There are some skills and techniques and things that we learned in the military that are super beneficial. One is consistent pattern, right? So you get up in the morning at X, whatever, get up in the morning at 5 a.m. You go do PT. Start this process in basic training. You get up, you make your bed, you go do PT. You come back, you shit, shower, and shave. You go get chow. You come back, you get changed, you go to work. This is a pretty sound, consistent process. And consistency is a crucial piece of this. So if you're stepping into the civilian world, you're transitioning the civilian world, and you're trying to figure out how to make that happen, one is be consistent in a daily routine. That's the first thing, right? The second thing is sit down and identify, why did you even join the military to begin with? Did you join the military to get free education? Did you join the military because you wanted to be of service? Did you join the military because you wanted to create impact? Like what was did you want to join the military so you be G.I. Joe and blow shit up and shoot cool guns? Like, get it. I understand. That was a big part of my motivation, right? They're like, dude, what are you going to do? I'm going to jump out of airplanes and jump out of helicopters and shoot big guns and blow shit up. Let's go. But identify the real reason why you joined, because that's the underlying piece of your sort of fundamental principles of who you are, right? The reason why I joined the military and the reason why I wanted to be a Green Beret, and I said this to my grandma Smith, is one of the pieces that sold her on it, was I want to create impact at a higher level. I can't do that as a grunt in the infantry, but I can do that if I'm working in a small unit, and that small unit is empowered to go and interact by, with, and through local populace and local forces and support them in bettering their own life. I don't want to fight for other people. I want to teach other people how to fight for themselves. And that's what Green Berets do. And that's what I wanted to do. Like, oh man, I forgot that when I got out. I didn't remember that was the underlying fundamental piece of my character that I can translate into the civilian world. And that was a big piece. So identify why you joined the military, right? Period. And then understand that can become a purpose-driven mission inside the civilian world. So there's three principal pieces that I talk about. One is identity. Who are you at the core level, right? Who are you at the core level? The second piece is, what is your purpose? Now, this is not an existential, like, why did God put me on earth? This is not like, what's your purpose? Like, it's very simple. people always want to overcomplicate everything because it gives them an excuse to not make a decision or make a final definition. Like, oh, it's so hard for me to figure this out. No, it's not hard for you to figure it out. It's easy for you not to figure it out, so you continue to do that. What's your purpose? And here's the best part. Everything you do to deliver your purpose into the world is your mission, and you get to choose what it is. And so if you're transitioning out of the military, you're stepping into the civilian market space, identify why you joined the military to begin with. Translate that into purpose. Understand who you are at your core level. What are your core values? What are your core ethics, your core morals? How do you take action based on integrity or lack of integrity? That's your identity. That's who you are at a fundamental level. And the final piece is, how can you deliver your purpose, which is attached to your identity, into the world and define your mission? And that's the only way to do it. Consistent effort every day. Identify those three things and then act on them.
What leads me to my next question, and I think this is going to exactly tie into what you just said on the identification piece. My apologies.
That's all good. We got that call coming in, bro.
That was actually Miami, so go figure.
Maybe
one of our mutual friends. You never know.
What I was going to say is it the guy that we think it is?
It might be. So heck of a time to do that, as I'm looking at my bio right now. And, as you are a head instructor of the Norse Tactical Training, and I know that you do a lot of law enforcement training. You do things that you have direct application of what you've learned from your experience. So let's talk about what you do for a living and really how you translated your purpose and your consistency and your patterns into a career now.
That's a good question. So when I went from that lowest point of my life, ready to eat a pistol, literally put a pistol in, I was so drunk I didn't pull the trigger. The next day I got a hand up, and I got a hand up from a very good friend of mine. I started a company called Norse Tactical, and they're based out of the Louisville, Kentucky area. And he's a former Navy SEAL. And we linked up, and ultimately I transitioned from not recognizing that I could serve a purpose in the civilian market space to taking the skill sets that I learned in the military. Now, mind you, it's literally a small percentage of the skill sets I learned, like shooting, moving, communicating, tactics, and strategy, mission planning. Like shooting, moving, communicating, tactics is like scratching the surface of all the shit that we learned in the military, especially in a special operations community, right? And so as the director of training, we trained law enforcement all over the country. And we trained law enforcement specifically on, one, slow down, shift your mentality to do this because I said so, and be proactively, you're going to have to be proactively reactive. Law enforcement has to be reactive to the situations they find themselves in. And with that being said, if you have a good situational awareness and an operational mindset, then you can start setting yourself up proactively to a possibility of someone taking action, right? So that's this term, it sounds ironic, but proactively reactive. This is something that I talk about with the guys that I train so they can kind of understand what we're going for. Well, that piece led into me getting introduced to this thing called Wake Up Warrior. Wake Up Warrior is out of Laguna Beach, California. The guy that runs that is, he's a real estate entrepreneur. And he found that he was kind of fucking up how he was living his life. And so I went down the path of personal development and personal growth. And that introduced me to, holy shit, like I have a voice. Like I have a voice, which is kind of cool. And I have, and this is not me being arrogant or narcissistic or egotistical in any way. This is what people have told me, is that apparently I have a gift of translating things into a way that people can resonate and feel. It's a way to evoke emotion. And so I was like, oh man, like my experiences, not just the shit that I learned, like not just the mechanics of knowledge, but the experience of the knowledge gained from experience can be translated into a way that creates perspective. Like, oh fuck, like, okay, so here's another thing I can do. So I actually got invited by that company to go be a personal development coach. So I was a personal development coach for a little while out in California. So I would fly out to California, help them run an event, and then fly back to Kentucky. And I owned a CrossFit gym. And man, I helped the company go public. And I created a US facing brand called Tactical Relief, which is a hemp derived CBD product. And that whole piece was formulated to support. Yeah, there you go, right there. That whole piece was formulated to support individuals with post-traumatic stress and traumatic brain injury. So it was one more way to affect the populace that I wanted to target and support and assist because of the battles that I faced. And now I own a training company called Savage Freedoms Defense. It's actually Savage Consulting LLC, just so if anybody's out there listening. But you can go to savagefreedoms.com. You can find me on Instagram at Savage Freedoms. But the company I have now is it's an interesting business model. So it's not just tactical training, but it's tactical training, it's leadership development, it's leadership experiences, so corporate level leadership experiences, it's keynote speaking, and it's all focused on how do you create an individual, and how do you take that individual and help them become a better asset to themselves, their family, and their community. And it doesn't matter if they're learning how to become better at self-defense and shooting a firearm that they may have purchased and aren't comfortable with, learning how to protect their family by having a castle defense plan for their home. So if somebody breaks in, everybody thinks, somebody breaks in, like, what are you gonna do? Like, I'm gonna get my gun and get to work. Like that's cool, bro. No, you're not. You're gonna probably piss yourself because people broke into your house at 2:00 in the morning and you heard the TV get knocked over. And now you're jumping out of bed trying to figure out where your kids are, where your wife is, where your dogs are, who's actually in the house. If there's somebody's in the house, or if one of your kids got up and went out there and knocked the fucking TV off the stand trying to get a glass of water, there's all these things that are going to go through your mind. So to say that this is how you're going to respond when you've never trained it and never practiced is just bullshit. And so that's the whole premise and purpose of what I do. Like, Savage Freedoms is about recognizing that you have an opportunity to savagely practice and declare your freedoms, all of them, and own all of them. And that's the freedom to grow. That's the freedom to produce. That's the freedom to prosper. That's the freedom to protect your family. That's the freedom to exercise all of the rights in the Bill of Rights that we have available and afforded to us by the Constitution. It's all the freedoms. And to do it savagely is to do it don't do it from a place of like, well, with respect. No, fucking own the shit out of that stuff. Because that's how you become a greater asset to yourself, your family, and your community. Because you can put me on a soapbox. And ultimately, I'm going to speak to men. Your job, most oftentimes, men consider themselves to be providers. That's what we think of ourselves, providers and protectors. The modern society has transitioned this mentality to just provider. And the protector, though we like to claim, oftentimes becomes second fiddle. And so the purpose of the company is to help individuals recognize that it's cool that you can provide. And especially, man, a lot of the clients that I have are high net worth individuals, and they're phenomenal men. They're really great family men, and they're phenomenal at building wealth, and not just a little bit of wealth, but we're talking about fucking generational wealth, right? Wealth that's going to support their kids and their grandkids. And it's beautiful. I'm actively working to do the same thing for my family. But the piece that gets missed is the protector piece. Situational awareness, the ability to be more aware of everything going on around you, the ability to actually respond to a high threat, high stress situation rather than just react, because there's a difference. And so that's the whole focus of the company. How can you create yourself to be a full asset, a greater asset across all those spectrums?
You hit it right on the head. When a lot of times people don't realize what their purpose is, yet they realize what they've been doing training their entire time. They already know what it is. They just haven't found a way to express it and utilize it. So let me pull back the curtain on one thing. Adam Smith, the person. Let's take everything away. Let's take career. Let's put military aside. Let's put family man over there. What do you do for fun? I found this picture. Maybe you can speak to it, but what do you like to do outside of all the stuff that you do on a daily basis that really gets your motor running?
Dude, I lifting is one, obviously. I love lifting. I love throwing weights around. But adventure is kind of the piece for me. Like, I love being in the mountains. I love camping. One of my favorite things to do is to pack a backpack and disappear into the mountains for 2 days and 2 or 3 days, go out, build a campfire, take a notebook out with me, ride in it, just sit, meditate, go for a hike. Like, I love disappearing into the mountains. It's kind of my thing, man. That was a big piece. When I was a little younger and I had a bit more time and space, snowboarding, anything that could put me in the mountains, that's what it is. Snowboarding, backpacking, snow camping, fucking camping, like going out with nothing. Like, I literally take a small bush knife and some flint and steel, And that's what I'll take with me. And I'll go out into the woods, and I'll spend 3 days in the woods filtering water and like living, just going out and living with nothing. I love that shit, man. That's some of my favorite stuff to do.
The apocalypse goes down tomorrow. What do you do? Where do you go?
What do I do? Where do I go? So the first thing I do is I grab my go bag and all the rest of my kit that I've got staged in the back of my house, because it's right next to my garage. I hook up my trailer. The next thing I do is I go 3 houses down and I raid their house for all their ammo and their supplies. And then I put them in the back of my truck because they have enough capabilities to shoot their guns. We link up with my in-laws, and we create a hardened position at my in-laws' house, which isn't, it's undisclosed. You won't know, but it has running water, has well capabilities, has solar power. We can disconnect from the grid. We have the ability to boil water in the whole 9 yards in that space. Plus the house is easily protected and defended in a position that's located there. And we have a farm already established. There's a greenhouse, and this is not preppers. This is just how we live.
Right.
Like there's a greenhouse that we can grow food all year. There's a freaking large garden that can literally feed a family of like 10 throughout the year, right? There's wild turkey that graze in the back 40. There's deer all over the freaking wood space and the mountains in the area that we can go murk and handle and have some venison, right? Like, that's apocalypse goes down, bro. I'm disappearing.
You know, when I asked that question, I didn't know how fast you were going to be to respond to that. You actually anticipated that I was going to. We didn't rehearse any of this stuff. This is all unscripted off the cuff, right? So a lot of times people would say, let me think. Well, I might actually go downstairs and open up a door. It's like, you're like, this is where I'm going. I got 3 houses down there. So, you know, I thought you were going to say you were coming to Texas. So I was going to say you made the right move, but I was hoping for that. Anyway, now I got to find my own plan. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Okay. We can meet in the middle, bro. We can meet in the middle.
I love it. You know, a lot of us have our own silent plans that we'll never publicly declare, but you know what? That's more important. And that leads me to my next question. You know, when it comes to plan B, I think a lot of people have this dream and realize that, you know, if everything went well, I'm going to be here. Very rarely or very often does it not go that way. So what are some of the things that you've learned resiliency wise to be able to really say, you know what, we're going to close that door. Let's go to another door and let's open that up. What is really kind of your thought process for making sure if you feel stuck, you're able to get unstuck and move forward as opposed to stay there?
I love this question. If you're listening, here's an opportunity. Get your fucking pencil and paper out or your pen out and start taking notes, because I'm going to give you a 30, I don't even know what it's going to be. Maybe a 6-minute dissertation on how to overcome obstacles. So it starts with this: PACE, primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency. There's no such thing as one plan. If you have one plan, you have no plan. Just like if you have one battery, you don't have any batteries, right? 2 is 1, 1 is none. So PACE, primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency. So the first thing that we talk about in mission planning or operational planning is the concept of having a multitude of different types of plans that back up each other. So if we have a primary plan, then and it fails, we go to our alternate plan, and it fails, we go to our contingency plan, and it fails, we go to our emergency plan. And sometimes we'll put a double E, right? Like extra emergency or oh, fuck me, emergency at the very end of PACE, PACE E sometimes. So the first thing is PACE plan. Don't have one plan. That's the first thing. Also, make certain that all of your plans have a common desired endpoint. And this is a piece that people miss. Oftentimes what we'll do is we'll set a plan, and our plan is, okay, I'm going to become an entrepreneur, and I'm going to create a super successful business, and we're going to do it in the next 24 months. Cool. And then you become an entrepreneur, and you realize in the first 6 months that you've bitten off way more than you can chew. You didn't know what you didn't know. And now that you're learning what you didn't know, you're like, you're legitimately screwed. You haven't generated an income in 4 months. You have no idea how you're going to feed the family. Now you're panicking because you're running out of runway, and you're trying to figure out how you can generate enough revenue to feed the family. And so rather than having an alternate plan that continues to drive towards the desired end state of being a successful entrepreneur, you give up on it completely. You shift out, you go find a regular job, and you become an employee again. Right? This is what happens. It happens to so many entrepreneurs. This is why entrepreneurship is such a challenge. But the piece is, what is your desired end state? So I have had this conversation with multitude, very successful business owners. And a conversation revolves around, hey, like if this business that you currently have is giving you the revenue stream that supports you so that you can focus on getting to your desired end state as an entrepreneur, then stick with your revenue stream. Don't just short stroke yourself off in that moment. Don't cut it off short. Stick with a generated revenue stream and build the foundation of your entrepreneurship, build the foundation of your business. And then when you know, like, hey, dude, check it out. I know that I got to make X amount of dollars to be able to feed my family, but I also know I got to make X amount of dollars to put money away. The target should not be feeding the family. The target should be creating wealth. So if your target is to create wealth, what's the number required to create wealth? Just now we're building on pace. My primary plan is to become an entrepreneur. After 4 months, I realized that's not feasible right now because there's no way for me to focus on building the company and feed the family. So I'm going to find a job, alternate plan, that's going to pay me enough revenue monthly so I can feed the family while I build the foundations of wealth creation inside my own business. Okay, cool. Now we go into contingency. Well, this job's not working. And the thing that I was doing as an entrepreneur, like the business that I created, I don't see any way for me to create success with that. And I'm also not happy doing it. Okay, cool. Because this is a big thing entrepreneurs face as well. So obviously you're trying to force the creation of a business and force wealth creation in something that you don't enjoy or love. You don't have passion around. So when you step into contingency, the contingency is drop the business you're trying to create, reevaluate the things that you love and have a passion for, and recognize that there's a niche market for that, and then go down the path of entrepreneurship and business creation inside of that space. Maintain your revenue stream and drive into your contingency plan. So people get hooked up to this single trailer mindset. I'm going to pull this trailer. I'm going to pull this trailer. I'm going to pull this trailer. I'm going to pull this bitch until I burn the tires off. But the fact of the matter is that every once in a while, we have to have a tactical pause. We have to reevaluate the actions that we're taking and identify whether or not those actions serve our desired end state. And my desired end state personally for me and my business is I want to create generational wealth for my family, and I want to love what the fuck I do. Period. And if I don't love what I do, and I can't create impact, and I can't serve the purpose that I choose to serve, and the missions that I'm going on aren't executing that into the world in a way that I see creating impact, and it's also not creating impact for my family, then I have to take a tactical pause and reevaluate what I'm doing. Why is this not working? Is this even something I want to do? Am I passionate behind this? So if we start with PACE, P-A-C-E, and we recognize that primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency gives us all of the opportunities to readjust, reevaluate, tactical pause, reassess where we are, and continue to either drive similar action or go, you know what? I'm cutting away from this because I'm pissed off. It doesn't make me happy. I fucking hate my life every single day, and I don't want to do this anymore. And then just readjust and reposition yourself. So PACE, that's the first step. That's the first step. I got more. Second is this. Stop believing that you have to have a perfect plan. The purpose of planning is planning with purpose. And let me just elaborate on what that means. Everybody thinks that they got to have a 100% solution. Let me just help you understand this right now. The only perfect plan is the one you never action. And the reason why is because as soon as you take action, you change all the variables. And so we can assess all the variables. We can assess 1,000. We can do a giant punch list of possible variables. What if? We can what if it until we're blue in the face and dead and in the ground. Congratulations, you've created a perfect plan because you never executed it. Stop seeking perfection. Seek excellence. Perfection is impossible. Excellence is achievable. So when you're planning, plan with a purpose to find excellence. We're talking about 70, 80% solution. There's no such thing as 100% solution. There is. This is what I want to do. Here's the projections that I've created based on best assumptions and past information. Here are the actions that I know I have to take now and in the next 90 days in order to get this thing moving and going forward. These are the things that I can think of. Here are some variables and potential obstacles that I'm going to have to face. And here are some overcomes that I can face when those obstacles come and present themselves. Cool. I have a 70% solution. It's time to fucking go. Period. If you continue to wait, then you get your point. You get yourself into analysis paralysis and you continue to seek perfection. And this is a number one problem that leaders across the board, it doesn't matter if it's in the military, in the civilian space, it doesn't matter if your parents, they seek a perfect answer. And then the last piece is this. Stop thinking that this is about you showing up and showing everyone else how good you are. And this is the third piece. So PACE is important. And recognize that a perfect plan means you must take no action. So don't seek perfection, seek excellence. And planning with the purpose of planning is planning with purpose. And the last piece is stop trying to make it about you. It's not about you. Like the plan is not about you. Your success is not about you. And if you're working inside of a team environment, stop trying to prove to whomever's watching you that you're fucking better than everybody else. At the end of the day, what is the desired end state? That's the question. I had this conversation with my ex-wife. My ex-wife and I, there's a reason why we're not married anymore. She would ask me to clean the bathroom. That was my responsibility. Clean the toilet, clean the bathroom. I got no problem with that. I'm fucking good at it. I'll clean the shit out of that fucking toilet in that bathroom, and I'll make that motherfucker sparkle like a sunfish. I'll tell you that right now. Like, literally clean the shit out of the toilet. But here's the thing. She believed that there was a very specific way to do it. And so this is the last piece to hold on to. She believed that you had to use a sponge for this and a rag for that and this particular thing and that particular thing. And what I believed was paper towels do a spectacular job on mirrors, and so do wet wipes, baby cloths, like baby wipes, phenomenal, and toilet paper on the actual toilet. Now, some of you are like, no, that's gross. Here's the thing. What is the desired end state? The question I asked my ex-wife was this: what is the desired end state? Do you want a clean bathroom, or do you want a clean bathroom your way? And that's the question that I always want to put in front of every single individual who's trying to overcome obstacles. If it has to be your way and it has to be your fame, you are not going to find the gray space to overcome the obstacle, because you're in a black and white mentality. Period. It's either my way or no way. But if you can recognize that assistance, that information, that support gives you the gray space, so you step out of the side of the black and white mentality and you focus on the possibility. What's possible? If I do X, what's possible? If I don't do Y, what's possible? If I think about the possibility, then I can shift into calculating probability of success versus sticking with this is what I'm doing. And because this is what I'm doing and I want this to be the piece that works, I'm going to fucking kill myself to make this one piece work. So I don't have to do that. Pace plan with a purpose, don't seek perfection, and work in the gray space. If you stick to those four concepts and you focus on working those four concepts, then obstacles no longer become barriers to success. They become opportunities to seek new solutions to problems you didn't see before.
I think you just nailed everything. And, for those of you who are watching, you probably are getting follows right now as we speak at Savage Freedoms, and also on Facebook at Savage Freedoms Defense. So here's my question to you, Adam. People have gotten to know you really well as far as not only your processes and your systems, but also your perspective and how you look at success. And I think a lot of people are opening their eyes to seeing maybe it's just not one way, right? You can have multiple angles of attack for something. So let's just fast forward. 2022, we're in April right now, for those of you who timestamp this podcast. Now you're in 2027, you're in 2032, 5-10 years down the road for Adam Smith. What does Adam see for business? What does Adam see for family? And what does Adam see for impact in the world?
Oh, man.
I know that was three questions. You're welcome.
Yeah, that not only 3 questions, but 10 years.
Dude, 10 years, somewhere in there.
I have a 5-year vision, and I have a 24-month action plan. Right, 10-year vision. Yeah, I mean, look, dude, 10 years. Like, oh man, like so much can change in 5 minutes. And let's just talk about the world in general. We knew based on sound intelligence, that Russia was going to invade Ukraine. Right. And then Russia invaded Ukraine. And what happened over the next 10 days? We saw gas prices that were already on the rise from actions and policies taken by the current administration. And guys, I don't care about your politics. You take your politics. I care about policy, not politics. So you can support whoever you want to support, but we got to talk about the facts of policy. And that's what I'm talking about right now.
You got a few likes on that, by the way, too. I'm looking at the camera right now and looking at the likes. Go ahead.
Yeah. So let's talk about policy. One, we already saw a rise in gas prices. That happened over 1 year. Next, we had an invasion in Ukraine. And as soon as that happened, we recognized that might have been a mistake, the actions of the policy. And now we have a almost 100% increase in gas prices. I mean, we went from $3 in some places, $3.50 in some places, to $7. Right? I mean, that literally is 100% increase in what we're talking about. This is insanity. That happened in 7 days. So to say that you have a 10-year plan is cool, And I think that it's a 10-year plan is a really good thing to have. But I think a 10-year plan shouldn't be about a plan. It should be about a vision. What is the vision of who you are in 10 years? Who's the person that you want to be in 10 years? That's a big picture concept, right? Like if we want to talk about the idea of the difference between strategic level considerations and tactical level considerations are the actions that I'm taking on the ground right now, right? Strategic level considerations are understanding how the tactical actions have second and third order effects to the bigger picture of what I'm doing and what I want. So if I'm at the strategic level and I go and blow up, I don't know, let's say we blow up Kyiv, right? Okay, now what are the second and third order effects if I'm Russia of the geopolitical aspect of what I'm dealing with, right? So there's so many different pieces that go into this thought process. I got a 24-month action plan and a 5-year vision. I know where I want to be in 10 years, but I can't dictate the changes of the economy. I can't dictate the changes of what's going to happen. And also, if I give myself permission to be at 10 years, what am I doing tomorrow? And I don't want to focus on 10 years. I want to focus on right now. I want to be present in the moment right now. If I keep going, man, one day I'll be there, one day I'll be there, one day I'll be there. By the time I get there, I will have missed all the fucking days to make it. And I don't want that. I don't want to do that. I want to focus on, I want to be present in the moment. So 24-month action plan, 5-year vision. So in 5 years, this is what I see. I'll be 40 in about 10 months or so. I just had a birthday in February. So in about 10 months or so, I'll be 40 years old. I'll have 2 kids, right? So in let's see, in 5 years, we'll just say 45. 45, I'll have 2 kids. One of them, I think, will probably be both of them will be in preschool or elementary school. I don't even fucking know yet because that's beyond me to consider. But who I am at that point is my company is a roughly $3 million company. And as a $3 million company, its sole focus is to create impact in the world. And by part of that is going to be me bringing in other former Green Berets to run small group training sessions. And the small group training session is going to be shooting and tactics and home defense. And they're going to run their own training groups. My target is to be able to generate enough gross revenue so I can pay each one of those guys between $120,000 and $150,000 a year, because that's life-changing money to a lot of people. It's a life-changing money to a lot of people from the special operations community who step into the civilian market and don't have a plan, right? I have a very good friend of mine who lives in South Carolina, and he didn't have a plan, and he got out and he didn't retire because he got out the same reason I did. We got burned out. We're like, dude, I don't want to do this anymore. And now he's struggling, and he's a single dad, and he's struggling to make ends meet. Could you imagine if I could generate enough revenue inside of my business where I could hire him at $150,000 a year and make it like shit, no shit, secured and locked in? That would change his life and the life of his son, right? That's what I want to be able to do. So in 5 years, we're at $3 million. I got 4 Green Berets, former Green Berets that work for me, or Navy SEALs that work for me, making between $120,000, $150,000 a year per person, as well as supporting them in whatever capital venture they have a desire to get into, whatever entrepreneurship they have a desire, and giving them mentorship and the blueprints on how to create success inside of that. Because they don't need to work for me forever. They just have the space to work for me long enough for them to figure out the fuck they want to do. My primary business is keynote speaking. My primary business is leadership development and leadership and leadership instruction. Yeah, I understand and recognize that my ability to run and gun is limited. Like the time on that is limited. So I'm going to do it as long as I can. And while I'm doing it, and that's generating revenue, like I just said, PACE plan, I'm going to use that revenue to give me space to build the other platform. Somebody told me, I can't remember who we got the quote from, but he said, hey man, if you can't find a stage to speak on, create your own. And here's the best part. If you're listening to this and you want to know how to get your voice into the public, definitively believe in what you believe in. And don't waver from that. If you wholeheartedly believe in your heart that you can create change, then speak to that. If you have an experience in your life that you know people can learn from, then speak to that. If you have a skill set or an ability that can tap into a niche market, then use it and flex it and recognize and figure out how to translate it so other people can understand it and digest it. And let me just say this. If you're a computer coder or tech geek, I don't speak fucking tech geek, bro. And I'm not taking it away from you. Nobody does. So when you show up to translate and pitch the business that you've created as a tech guy, learn what it is that we want. Learn what it is the business that you're pitching to truly wants. Solve the fucking problem for them and do it from a place that you have subject matter expertise in. And that's in 5 years, that's what I want to do, man. I want to change people's lives. In 5 years, I will have at least touched 100,000 people and help change their lives. If that means that I've had a conversation with one business owner who has 100 employees, and that business owner has changed how he operates and how he creates culture and community inside of his business to support his employees, then that's 101 people that I've created a change in their life. That's the target, man.
You have so much to unpack there, and I think of Bob Ross, right? I think about a blank canvas. I think we're old enough to kind of go back to the Bob Ross deal.
Yeah,
so I have this channel on my TV in my studio, and the only free channel I get is the Bob Ross 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And what's interesting, and I'm not taking away hopefully anything that you said, because the impact of it was just spot on. And in my head, I'm thinking, I'm actually picturing you being able to place these things and being able to say, this is where my business will be. Definitively in your mind, you've already sold it to yourself, right?
Yeah.
The only question is your 24-hour action plan, right? 5-year vision, or, looking forward to 24-hour action plan. Now you need to know what to do that day. So when that 24 hours is up, the next color to take and the next brush to stroke. So it's interesting because you're going to make happy little mistakes, right?
Oh yeah.
You might not get a haircut, but you're okay in making those mistakes to know how to move after that.
Dude, you know what? Like, this is the thing that I try to communicate to somebody one time, and it's hard to communicate it. You have to know what you want. And then you have to realize that in the process of getting to where you want to be, you're going to trip up. And when you trip up, you can lay on the floor and cry about it, or you can get up and keep getting after it. That's the reason why, the reason why I say go fucking get it. Like, I used to do this thing called the Daily Dick Punch. I did it on Instagram. I did it on Facebook. Since then, I've taken it down. It was a really great way for me to practice delivering a message, because I was trying to find my voice, and I was trying to figure out a way to communicate how I wanted to communicate to people so that I could be true to who I am. And at the end of every one of my Daily Dick Punches, I said the same thing: go fucking get it. And the reason why I say it is because it's true. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to fall on your face. You're going to trip up. Sometimes it's going to be, sometimes it's going to be you, and sometimes it's going to be other people that you're involved with. If you recognize it, just take it for what it is, man. Take it that it was a mistake. It's a trip up. Like, got it, understood. Get up and go fucking get it. And that's it. And that's the other piece. Backwards. Fuck, I didn't mention this. Backwards planning, right? There's this consideration that everybody wants to look at where we are and they want to build a roadmap forward. But the fact of the matter is if you actually want to get to where you want to go, you got to build a roadmap backwards. You have to be, okay, this is where I want to be. Okay, now I have to backwards plan. So if I want to be here, and let's just take, for example, Friday. So on Friday, tomorrow, here's an example. Tomorrow at 2:00, I'm going to do a pitch for a venture capitalist for another company that I'm involved with. It's a company called the Proving Grounds. Proving Grounds is a tactical shooting competition and experience. It's unique in the market space, though there are others that are doing something similar. It's unique because the focus of the shooting competition is really all about applying the mechanics of tactics under stress induction. So it's not a fitness competition with some shooting involved. It's a shooting competition with some fucking stress involved, right? That's the difference. And so we have to do this pitch tomorrow. And so on Monday, I had a conversation with the CEO of the company. I said, look, there's a pitch that's happening on Thursday. It's going to be at 2:00. This is what we're doing. So now let's backwards plan. What time do we have to be at the meeting? And the CEO was like, well, like, what are we doing on Monday? Nope, doesn't matter. I don't care. Let's go back to Thursday when we're doing the pitch at 2:00. What time do you want to be at the building? And she was like, I want to be at the building at 1:30. Okay, good. So it's going to give us 30 minutes to not only find the office that we're supposed to be doing the pitch in, but also a little bit of time to decompress and get ready to do the presentation. Beautiful. Okay, so from 1:30, where are you staying? And how long of a drive is it to get there? So what time do you have to leave by? And she was like, well, I'll probably need to leave by 12:45 or 12:30. So it's about an hour drive. Okay, got it. So you're gonna have an hour drive. You're gonna be on the road by 12:30. Outstanding. So from 12:30 to 12, you're gonna do final personal prep, right? From 12 to 11, you're gonna review the pitch and ensure that you have it locked in inside of your brain, and you and I are gonna rehearse it together. From 11 to 9, we're gonna do meditation, journaling, workout. We're gonna just be decompressed in the morning, be very clear about where we are. And then we're going to start the process of the day. Cool. So we have all of Thursday back planned at this point. Now we can back plan to Monday. What else has to get done for the company this week that we have to achieve so that we're ready for our first event, which is going to happen on May 21st? What else do we have to do? So now let's backward plans that, because we can't overload ourselves, because if we do, we're not going to get anything done. So that's the other piece is if you know where you want to go, like you have that vision of where you want to be, don't plan from where you are forward, plan from where you want to be back. Because if you do that, then you give yourself permission to take action. But if you're trying to figure out how to go forward from where you are and you don't know what you don't know how to fucking start. But if you go the opposite direction, you're like, dude, you know what? I got to make a phone call. Dude, sometimes it's just that simple. Not even shitting you, man. It's as simple as getting on a social media app called Clubhouse and recognizing that there's a moment that you can share some insight and create some impact in people's lives and get fucking noticed. It's the reason why I had a phone call today at 1:00 before our podcast. It's the reason why you and I are on this podcast right now. It's the reason why I have another podcast on Friday that I'm doing, and one in 2 weeks with Gun Stuff TV. And the reason, like, it's by making one phone call and being willing to just show up. Like, God, fuck, man. You got me really fired up right now.
Are you gonna like come through the TV or
Dude,
like the camera? Because I've got like this big studio and I feel like you're about to go 3D on me, dude.
I'm so fired up right now. This is okay. I don't care who's listening, who's watching. This is what I want you to do right now. This is the thing I want you to do. What's the thing you want the most in your life? That's what I want to know. What's the thing you want the most in your life? And this is the thing. Are you man enough? Like, this is the best part of this fucking show. Here's the question. I'm just gonna call it out. Are you man enough to take the first step and not be a bitch? That's what I want to know. So figure out what the first step is that you must take. If that is like literally sending an email or making a phone call and you've been reluctant to do it because, well, what if they say no? What the fuck if they say no, man? Good. At least now you fucking know, and you can take that off your plate and you can start putting your attention somewhere else where you think maybe you have some fucking success. I would much rather Matt tell me, no, I don't want you on the podcast, and go, cool, bro. I'll find another podcast to be on. I appreciate it. Then I can stop forward progression and stop thinking that there's an opportunity there that's not. Are you man enough to take the first fucking step? I want everybody listen to the podcast right now or watching the podcast. I want you to do one thing. What's the one thing you've been waiting to do? Is it making a phone call to a girl that you have an interest in, or a text message girl because you guys met and there's some chemistry, but you're worried and afraid that she's going to turn you down? Is it making a phone call or sending an email to the possible job opportunity that you would really like to have, but you're reluctant to do it because you're afraid that you don't have the qualifications to do it? Is it starting your own business, or you have a fucking business already, but you're trying to figure out the next step to create revenue inside of your company? This is what I want you to do. I want you to write down one action step, something simple, not big. This is not big, massive action. This is something as small as taking one step forward, right? Waking up in the morning, swing your legs out of the bed. Phone call, email, and I'll add one thing to it. If you can get in contact with somebody and send them a video message, do that. Send a video message with your face on camera so they can hear your voice and the conviction by which you deliver your message, and push it out. Do it. Don't fucking wait. That's the question. Are you man enough to not be a bitch to take the first step to create massive change in your fucking life? Oh.
Did you just Will Smith the audience? Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah, 100%. It's not too soon.
Too soon. You know, I think with our time here, you have definitely probably given us about 3 hours worth of content in just a short 60 minutes. And I have to say that every single minute of it meant something. You know, it wasn't filler. It wasn't, man, I hope this is delivered right. You have a way of articulating, and you weren't being arrogant earlier. As I was listening, you're like, okay, so I don't want to sound, but this is what I've been told. I've told you that.
Yeah, I know.
Everybody else has told you that who's listened to you. And frankly, there's no doubt why you're successful now. And there is no doubt in my mind, or anybody else's who's listening to this and watching this, is why you're going to be in 5 years exactly where you said you were going to be. Because you have accountability, you've got responsibility, and you've got creativity to find out how to get there. So I think those are the 3 components that most people miss. One of the 3, they usually don't have all 3, and you've got it, dude. You're the full deal. So how can someone follow you? I know that you got a chance to talk a lot about kind of halftime. Let's talk about Savage Freedoms on Instagram. Where do you respond most? Do you respond more on Facebook? Do you respond on a website, or do you respond on Instagram?
I respond most on Instagram. So if you want to reach out to me directly and send me a message, find me on Instagram at Savage Freedoms and send me a message request. Follow me and send me a message request. I check Instagram probably 3 to 4 times a day. I check Facebook probably 3 times a week. You can also send me an email directly if you'd like to, adam@savagefreedoms.com. I check my email religiously. So if you want to send me an email, you're welcome to do that as well. And you know, I love the name of the show, dude. First of all, thank you for your words. They're fucking kind. And that's a huge compliment. I really appreciate that. Especially knowing your background and where you came from and what you've done and what you've created in your own life. It's awesome to have that recognition. I really appreciate it. The name of the show is a great name. Are You Man Enough? And modern society has demonized masculinity and demonized men to an extent that's almost driven men into hiding. Because if you express yourself, express an opinion, then you're toxic. If you like to be aggressive, then you're toxic. If you deliver your message, I don't know if you guys notice this or not, but I have a little intensity when I speak. If you deliver your message with intensity, then you're toxic. And what I want to put out to every single person watching this show is that masculinity is not specifically designed for men. It's an energy. It is an energy trait, like it is the energy that you deliver a message with. And to deliver a message directly, with conviction, with intensity, with passion, and with personal belief coming from the heart, that would be that very much oftentimes is considered masculine energy. So it doesn't matter if you're male or female. I just want you to recognize that there's nothing toxic about masculinity. There's nothing negative about masculinity. Anybody can be an asshole. But if we recognize that you have the opportunity to utilize different aspects of your personality as assets and not let them become liabilities, then stand the fuck up and speak with your chest. Have some conviction and ask yourself if you're man enough to just show up. That's where this all starts.
You know, as we would say in the Million Marathon, stick your chest out.
That's right. Stick your chest out.
Well, I have to say, Adam Smith, the one and only, as we close out the show, I would love to basically have more conversations like this, especially about masculinity, femininity, what it really looks like to be a man. And, you know, this is something that we've gotten the chance to not only talk about on Clubhouse, but talk about in real life. And I absolutely am looking forward to meeting you in person, maybe hitting the range, grabbing some food, grabbing a drink, whatever it is we need to do, because you've definitely shown up today. So much appreciation. Thank you so much for your service. Adam Smith, ladies and gentlemen, we will look forward to seeing you back, hopefully in a new episode, hopefully even on season 2, if you're down for that. You good for that?
Let's go.
Love it, my friend. Well, until then, we are done and put a wrap on season 2, episode 1. Episode 2 will be up in 2 weeks, and we will have a very special guest. I will give you that announcement then. But thank you for tuning in. If you have questions, follow Adam Smith, IG, Savage Freedoms, Facebook @Savage Freedoms Defense, or you can email at adam@savagefreedoms.com. Is that correct?
You got it. Nailed it 100%.
Bam. Guys, enjoy your time. We look forward to it. And Adam, thank you so much for your time as well.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate you.